Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today I'm going to be looking at Merlin Illuminations deck from Art Playing Cards. This deck was released on Kickstarter and was designed by artist Det de Leon du Midi. The deck is, of course, inspired by the stories of Merlin, but more broadly, the Arthurian legends that were maybe made most famous by a series of poems that were collected and put together by Alfred Lord Tennyson back in the 1800s. It tells the story of course, Merlin, but also the rise and fall of Arthur's kingdom, the Knights of the Round Table, the quest for the Holy Grail. So lots of rich stories to kind of draw on and putting this deck together. Another interesting part of the deck is it kind of started out by putting together full 3D models. So just using some 3D modeling software and did some really intricate and detailed 3D models of a bunch of the characters, and that sort of became the courts and other cards in the deck. So we'll take a look at that as we go. But let's start out by looking at the tuck case, and this is it. It's a glossy finish, regular tuck case, no embossing, no foiling, and features on the front no words, but instead just one of those 3D models that I mentioned, and it is, of course, Merlin on the front. And you can see him large standing there on the front of the deck. He does have a little spade pip on his belt there, and he's surrounded in a series of kind of gold or copper colored vines and flowers and leaf work around him. I like the vine and the leaf work. The 3D model, a little bit of an odd look to it. I wouldn't necessarily call it a realistic look to it. It is an interesting and kind of well done model in its own way. I don't think I could have put together a 3D model like that, but there's some parts of this that look a little bit unrealistic, if you will, just maybe in like how some of the clothes drape and things like that. But not bad. Look at Merlin there, and if I zoom in close, you can see some of the detail even on his face. So there is Merlin featured on the front of the tuck. On the sides, you have some of that beautiful gold leaf and flower work there. Same thing on the other side. Bottom has your ad copy, mentions Art Playing Cards as well as USPCC, who printed the deck. Top, it says Merlin Illuminations with the two flowers there. And the back is going to be the back design of the card, so we'll look more at that in a second. Now, I did mention the poems of Alfred Lord Tennyson. You do get a quote from him on the inner flap here. It says, "Then fell on Merlin a great melancholy. He walked with dreams in darkness." And then nothing at all printed on the interior of the tuck. So that is the tuck case. Not bad. Not my favorite with the 3D model on the front, but I do like that kind of vine work that's done throughout. Now getting into the cards, we'll start with the back design. This is probably my favorite part of the deck. I think this is actually pretty well done. Features a black card. Both the faces and the backs are completely black. And has a pair of swords running through. Presumably that's Excalibur, Arthur's famous sword, done in silver, and then surrounded by lots of really beautiful gold vine work kind of twisting its way around. You get a little bit of a gray background giving the, a little bit more depth to it, but really a nice back design to the cards. Finishes out in a thin black poker border. So there's the back design. Look at the extra cards you get, and now we're going to see some more of those 3D models come into play with the two jokers. So the first one features what I presume is Death. He's got the scythe behind him, and you've got the skeleton, but he's wearing a knight's armor. So presumably that's representing Death, done in silver with a gold scythe. You can see those suit pips kind of floating in the background. And the other one features a jester with his lute behind him. And this is one of the ones where I think the 3D model was not done very well. The shadows on this one give him a really weird and kind of twisted look. I mean, just how shadowy the face looks, the weird texturing in the hat. Not a huge fan of this one, but you do get a classic jester as the other court. Kind of done as a silver and gold, two different courts. Other extra cards, you get an ad card with a kind of portrait style picture of Merlin. It says Merlin Illuminations at the bottom. And then you get a double backer. Odd choice to put a gaff in here because, as we'll see in a little bit, don't think this makes for the greatest magic deck, but you do get a gaff card if you want to use it in that way. All right, jumping into the cards, and we'll start with the Ace of Spades. And once again, this is going to be where the deck kind of gets a little bit off the rails. There's no A, so you can't see the value of the card anywhere, but I assure you this is the Ace of Spades. Features Merlin, that's kind of not unexpected in the deck. Very similar pose to what we saw in the front of the tuck. But this time he's got kind of the gold robe to go with the silver, so you get kind of a dual tone there. The only mention even of a spade is the spade pip on the belt there. Otherwise, nothing else. I think it's a really weird choice. And again, some kind of weird look and weird shadowiness, light effect on the 3D model itself. So really weird choice for the Ace of Spades. All four of the aces are going to be like this, but it is what it is. The number cards I do think are nice. I think the gray background with those kind of gray vine work and flowers, it's nice. And then you have the kind of tarnished gold looking custom pips. I do think this is a well done custom number card. You have a small but still fairly readable pip and index in the corner as well. So there are your number cards, pretty standard layout on those, all done in gold instead of the traditional black. And then you get into the courts, and all the courts are going to feature two-way classic poker arrangement, but with more of those 3D models representing some of the prominent characters from the Arthurian legends. Not going to get into who all of them are, but I'll call out a few of them. The King of Spades, for example, is Arthur Pendragon. You can or Uther Pendragon rather. Was the King of Britain, father to Arthur, and you can see him with his really intricate armor there. Really nice work done, I think, on some parts of the 3D modeling. Love the dragon on the chest there. And that's kind of reflected on the other side. The pip and index now are kind of encased in the shield in the corner. You've also got what I think is maybe a less successful 3D model in the Queen of Spades. This is Morgana Le Fay, the half-sister of Arthur, who's a sorceress in the stories. And she's got those mushrooms beside her, but a really weird look to the face. I think you can barely make out any of the detail. But there are the Spade Courts. Here's the Ace of Diamonds, now features the Camelot Castle. Really nice model of the castle, even featuring things like Merlin walking down the steps there. A close-up of him. So a nice model of the castle, but I will also say, weird that there's no mention of the pip or the index. This is also a little bit strange too. Yes, you get Merlin on there, but he's literally in the exact same pose that he was in every other place we've seen him, which kind of, to me, detracts again from how much I can really enjoy the models. It kind of reminds me, no, this is just a repeated 3D model, but I don't know. The number cards, again, kind of goes back to nice custom pips, now done in silver instead of the classic red. And then into the diamond courts, so more of the Arthurian characters. Most notably over here, the Jack of Diamonds. This is Galahad, seen as arguably one of the greatest knights of all time. He was one of the ones who helped to find the Holy Grail and was the son of the famed Sir Lancelot. So there is Galahad, features the Jack of Diamonds. And then into your club courts, the Lady of the Lake is featured as the Queen of Clubs with a bow and arrow behind her. She's the one who ultimately tricked Merlin, ensnared him with her magic, and captured him beneath the stone. So she was ultimately Merlin's undoing. And then down through the club number cards, like those the style of those club suits there. There's your Ace of Clubs, the Holy Grail with a club on it. A little strange. And then into the Heart Courts, and this features our kind of main character from the Arthurian legends, including Arthur is the King of Hearts, his wife there, Guinevere, and then she was involved in a love triangle that also included potentially the most famous of the knights, Sir Lancelot, over here with an axe beside him. And then down through the heart number cards and finishing with the Ace of Hearts, which features the famed Excalibur sword in the stone. And you do have a little heart pip in there, barely make it out in the corner. So that is the deck. Handles well, it's USPCC, won't say too much about that, other than they fan and cut beautifully. That thin poker border gives you a nice little flair as you use this for fans, so I think it's nice. What do I think of the deck overall? I struggle with it a lot. I think I hit on, I'm not a big fan of the 3D models. I don't think they're particularly well done. I think there's skill in putting them together, but I think the lighting is weird and kind of gives them this unfinished look. And I struggle with the usefulness of the deck. I mean, I suppose you could use this for cardistry, it handles well enough, but if you wanted to use this for gameplay and Magic, in large part, the fact that there's no A on the aces, that by itself is gonna really detract from it. It's a really dark deck. I don't love the color scheme that's put throughout it. And honestly, those courts, I mean, even on the courts, right, it's very hard to read the pip and the index in the corners if you're holding this in your hand. So for me, it falls down as a useful deck for gameplay or Magic, and then even as a collector's deck. I mean, I think the Arthurian legends are so rich and there's so much opportunity to tell stories, and yet at the same time, so much opportunity is missed in being able to work in kind of recognizable elements throughout the stories or anything like that. For example, the Jack of Diamonds, right? This, I mean, really just looks like a generic knight, and this is supposed to be Galahad, one of the most, famed knights of all time. There's just really little detail. I don't even think he was really particularly well known for using an axe. So to not feature him with a lance or a sword or something, I think it just kind of carries through with a lot of it. It's a very generic look. If I look at the King of Clubs and I hold it up next to the King of Hearts, I mean, you're gonna really tell me you can tell which one of those is Arthur and which one is just some other guy. It doesn't come out in the card. So even as a collector's deck, I think it just falls a little bit short. I think it's an interesting concept to go after the 3D modeling, just could have been done a little bit better. But that's it. That's my opinion of it, the Merlin Illuminations. Hope you enjoyed that. If you do like what you see, I'll put a link down in the description where you can go check these out for yourselves. And thanks for watching. All right, let me know what else you want to see. Subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings, and I'll see you for the next one.